All right. Welcome to the Explorers Club. I think this is going to be a fascinating evening. I think this fits so well with the club. The club was created in 1904 by polar explorers. And two of the three we're talking about were very active members. So it is just here downstairs we got figurines or we got statues of them. So I think it's quite incredible. So, well, let me just ask off and see how far I have to go. For whom it's the first time that they're at the Explorers Club? All right, we have quite a few hands. Who is a member of the Explorers Club? Look at those hands. We have a bar downstairs that's open until 10 o'clock, and they might be able to get you in and get you a drink. So, no, but the bar is open afterwards. And you're going to hear very soon, the bar is special as well. It fits as well with this theme of tonight. So yeah, founded by Greely, by polar explorers. So the whole theme of tonight fits very well. We're going out now, obviously, last to fly over. Actually, we had a pilot who just flew over when I was in Alaska. We have one who is trying to fly next year. Where's Peter? Yeah, there's Peter. So he's trying to do the same trip by plane this time, not by hydrocraft, by lighter than aircraft. So, yeah, so I think it's really great to be here for the centenary of this flight. When you look at, it's actually a centenary not only of the hot air balloon, but of a flight as well. And you had Bert, who flew, probably made it to the North Pole or close by, on May 9th, 1926. And then we had the expedition, or the flight we're talking about, was on May 11th, on the same, and they flew off from the same place in Svalbard. And it's actually interesting, I was on a diving expedition there, and we were around there, but as you're going to hear, I think there's unfortunately nothing left. We were talking before, what do you have? How can you find out how that hot air balloon, how that airship looked like? There's not much left, so that's fascinating. And for me, it resonates as well. I was on one of the last expeditions to the North Pole. You have Cambanio. We flew by helicopter over there. We had Richard Garriott, who is president of the Explorers Club. He's second-generation astronaut. We took our kids along there. His son was 3, and daughter 5 and 7. So we flew there. We celebrated actually the 50-year of the first confirmed person to get to the North Pole. But anyway, that is not why we are really here. I think we want to talk about this, but I think there are two things as well. I think the club is about history, but as well about, it looks like a historical building, and it is, but people are meeting here and doing new things. When you're going down to the bar, you're going to see we have other people, Michael Verstraden, he's doing the Sky Eye, similar ideas, how can we use these? I think you're going to talk quite a bit about what you're going to do. So it fits very well. So, but yeah, let me talk a bit about Max. So I think he spent 18 years immersed in the history of airships and the golden age of exploration. He's a designer by profession, focused on next generation seaplanes and airships. He leads MB Vision and co-founded Ocean Sky Cruises. Maybe we can get on it soon, I wouldn't mind. A Swedish startup planning to take passengers by modern airship from Svalbard to the North Pole, retracing hopefully in comfort and safety, the same route that Norge flew 100 years ago. I think his work on airship history has been exhibited in over 40 countries and earned him a 2025 Lifetime Achievement Award from the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics for his contribution to the art and technique of airships. And it's interesting, when you're in this place, you start talking. And then we started talking about Trieste. And then you have the Marianas Trench. I have friends of mine who went down to the Marianas Trench. We had 3 members who have gone down. The people who started it were here. And so it's just great having you here and hearing your stories. And like you said, you're bringing experts together. You don't want to deep too much in. And so there's lots of interesting things. So when you go downstairs, try to find a bronze bust of Ellsworth, and then you have Richard Byrd, and you have a portrait of Roald Amundsen. So, yeah, let me welcome Max Pinnuci for this lecture.
Thank you so much, and I would say that I'm moved. It's amazing to be here. I'm honored, and I'm a bit humbled because I have to talk about a very long story. Every story starts from somewhere, and I want a friend, Michael Connors, one of the members of this club, to introduce a little bit my work, and then I want to start from the beginning till what we're doing in these days.
Hello and good evening. I'm Mike Connors and a proud member of the Explorers Club. I'm delighted to introduce my good friend Massimiliano Max Pinnuci, who is our guest speaker. Max is a world-renowned illustrator, aviation designer, pilot, and historian. His vision in his published works and his museum quality exhibits showcases the synergy of aviation design and art. Max and I share a passion for airships, both historic and current day. Last year, as chairman of the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics, Lighter Than Air Systems Technical Committee, I presented Max with a Lifetime Achievement Award for his contributions to the art and science of buoyant flight. Before we celebrate the centennial of the Norge flight, I would be remiss if I did not mention the following. Prior to the flight of the Norge, which occurred on May 12, 1926, Richard Byrd took off on a quest to fly over the North Pole, May 9, 1926. He flew in a trimotor monoplane, leaving Kings Bay, Spitsbergen, for a flight that lasted a grueling 15 hours and 57 minutes. On his return, he reported that he reached the North Pole, a distance of 800 miles from Kings Bay. When he came back to the U.S., he was honored as a national hero with a ticker tape parade in New York City. He was awarded the Medal of Honor the following year. The Explorers Club is uniquely connected to his Arctic and Antarctic explorations. In 1939, Richard Byrd, a distinguished Explorers Club member, flew the Explorers Club flag number 98 on an expedition to Antarctica to conduct seminal climate and geographical research. During his long career as a naval officer, Admiral Byrd expanded the fields of navigation, aviation, and Arctic exploration. He is buried in Arlington National Cemetery with his epitaph hewn into the stone. Upon the bright globe, he carved his signature of courage. And now, for another example of extraordinary courage, the airship Norge was flown from Kings Bay, Spitsbergen, over the North Pole, nonstop to Alaska, 3 days after Byrd's flight. And for the rest of that story, please welcome my friend, Max Pinnuci.
interesting things is about competition. Competition comes from Latin competere, that means running together. So I'm not here to say who was the first, because I love all explorers. They tried, and it's amazing today to imagine to try to fly above the last spots on the maps. In order to explain why I'm here, I just want to tell you that I'm super happy to be a member, I'm the owner of a design firm in Italy, and I work on a lot of innovative projects, mainly seaplanes and aircraft, special aircraft. Since 10 years, I also work on the new generation of airships. There is aviation has plenty of names. This AAM means Advanced Air Mobility, and LAE is Low Altitude Economy. Typically, these things belongs to the eVTOL, the planes that can fly electric, they can fly vertically. But I think that, in my vision, they are seaplanes and airship, because these are jewels that are coming from the past, from the golden age of aviation, and I want to work with them. I'm a pilot, and I fly something really, let's say, cool. You can't go too far with my plane, but it's the real flying. I mean, you can smell the flowers, you can hear the wind. It's fantastic. But first of all, why airships? I think someone can help me to explain.
Alan, this species of variformin's been extinct since the Cretaceous period. I mean, this thing isn't one of this thing. What?
Okay, this is a dinosaur and a man. And when you talk about the big things, dinosaurs are probably the biggest ones. But they are very small if you compare them with airships. This is a cabin of an airship of 1917. Let's zoom out. Let's zoom out again. Okay, this is the man, the dinosaur, and the airship. And this is not a big airship, it's just a long airship. Because if you compare to scale with the Hindenburg, that was big. So we lost these things. They were lost in time. No one remembers, because what we have today are just some little parts of them, some engines, some cabins, but nothing is left. So it's hard to tell the story. So how to tell the story? Imagine that when the Wright brothers, they were trying to fly in 59 seconds. In France, the Le Beau Le Jeune was flying for 1 hour, 42 minutes with 2 people on board. Imagine that. We think that they were slow and they were low. This Zeppelin reached in 1917 around 25,000 feet. And this one, in 1917, went from Bulgaria to the borders of Kenya and back. No stop. We forgot this thing. We forgot the giants. When the Alcock and Brown tried to cross the ocean, they are in the books. But no one remembered the British R-34 that flew the same routes, but back and forth, with 31 people on board, plus a stowaway, plus a cat. And then one of the longest flights ever started from the States, from New Jersey to Portugal, to Dakar, Senegal, and then Puerto Rico, and then finally Florida. 10 days and a half in the sky without refueling and without stopping. So these are numbers. I love the numbers. Here you see that they were slow, and they weren't that slow. They were reaching 140 kilometers per hour. That means around 90 miles per hour. And they were big. And they were also flying quite high. They were able to reach more than 8,000 meters. That means most around 27,000 feet. And where do they fly? Everywhere, apart from Australia. So that's the story behind the story. No one knows these things. And this was I thought it was my mission, our mission, to try to revamp, to rewrite this story. And how to tell the greatness of these things. So we started with books. I started drawing nice profiles. I published them on Facebook. And one day someone wrote me and said, "Oh, they're beautiful, but they are completely wrong." Before replying, I checked the name of the guy, Andreas Horn, one of the greatest experts in the world. So, okay, he said, "Andreas, where do you live?" And he said, "Basel, Switzerland. I'll visit you." And as a student, I went there, and as you can see, he destroyed my work completely. So I said, "Andreas, I have only two possibilities. Or I throw everything away, really, or I work with you." I said, "You can't work with me." Why? Because I know only about the German airships. And how to talk about the American ones? Oh, let's call Dan Grossman. And he put me in contact with the Gotha of the airship knowledge all around the world, from Italy to Russia, from Sweden, Switzerland, and so on. And we started this journey that ends quite well, because we made books, and these books were sold all around the world. And I wanted to pay homage to this story, drawing maps, timelines, sections, hangars. And this, of course, was the beginning. And then I wanted people to know about these things. And I decided to start with exhibiting these things. So we started thinking how we can bring around these things, and we started making conferences first, everywhere, online, offline, in presence, in schools, in universities, institutions, museums, wherever it was possible. Then we thought that it was the moment to make something more. And we decided to make exhibitions. And we started from the drawings, the famous drawings that at the beginning they were all wrong, and now are quite good. Quite, because we don't know exactly if they are good or not, because the literature around them is so scarce, so hard to find, and we guess. Our work is probably the most accurate, but the most accurate, not the right one. And then we were hosted by a lot of spaces, museums, and institutions all around the world. And this is the story behind the story. Nowadays, the exhibition is half in Rome, in the Air Force Historical Museum, and in Norway, in the Fram Museum, the Museum of Polar Exploration. Okay, models, dioramas as 3D printed airships, whatever. And we wanted to invite to study and to learn about this story, especially the young generations, because they don't know anything about them. And if you want to work with airships, you want to bring them back, you have to start from the past. And then when the past is achieved, then you can work with the future. We succeeded to video project a few years ago the Norge in full scale during an event in Italy. And this was the only possibilities we had to show the right size of these gentle giants. And how to involve the young people? Board games. So we started making models of the airship and the boards with the weather that changes every turn. And of course, you know, you have to go to the North Pole. We are in 1924, so 2 years before the Norge. And the biggest problem the countries that are trying to reach the top of the world is, of course, money. They don't have enough money, as usual. So you have to start making money, making missions, trying to bring passengers, military things, in order to collect enough money to try. And this was done during a very bad period, the COVID lockdown. You know that Italy was the second country after China to experience the lockdown. We lost a lot of work, and we decided to try. And let's go on Kickstarter. Let's try. And it worked very well. It worked so well that now the game is used especially in schools and in institutions like our Italian Geographical Society, because younger generation are in trouble with geography, not only with airships. And so I want to tell this story around the cards of our board game. And it's amazing because now we're going to play with them. Because you see this handful of cards, really, 10 cards. These cards are the story of airships in the Arctic. Let's start from the beginning. The North, the Norge, the first achieved the first full document achievement of the North Pole, and is route. Then we have to think that in reality, even at the North Pole or in the Arctic, the airships were quite used to go. These are the routes of the airships in the Arctic. 7 airships went to the Arctic, not just the Norge. Okay, let's put the Norge in the timeline, and this is the history of the exploration by airship. The first is not exactly an airship. It was a balloon, not a hot air balloon, but was a hydrogen-filled balloon in 1897. I'm sorry for the ones who already know this story, but I need to start from the beginning. They tried, and they didn't succeed, unfortunately. But they survived, and there were found the bodies and the remainings 30 years after, by chance. But they found, together with the bodies, they found the film, not it was a really film, but however, the photos they took. And now we know they survived. They lived for months. They were great because they tried to use hydrogen instead of hot air. A kind of a special altitude control system that failed immediately after really a few yards, but it was already something very interesting. Keep the control. A steering system with the sails and survival equipment. Then let's go forward. 1906, 07, 09, and here we can find my first card. Okay, this is an American explorer and journalist, Walter Wellman, and he decided to go there, and he tried first with a normal exploration, so legs, and then he decided to go by airship. He bought this beautiful airship, America, in France. And finally, they tried. Unfortunately, once again, they didn't succeed, nor in 06, 07, 09. But they seeded, they planted the seeds of reaching the North Pole by air. So it was a great achievement. 3 engines, crew accommodations, rudders for direction, and altitude control. Let's go a bit forward. Here we are in 1924. This is the American airship. USS Shenandoah. In reality, it was a copy, perfect copy, of a German airship. But it was the first in the world to be filled by helium instead of hydrogen. And this was a great achievement. It was a beautiful ship. And they tried to go to the North Pole. It was a really a big beast. And was designed to reach the heights like 8,000 meters. But unfortunately, the president, Coolidge, decided to stop the program because he didn't want to have failures. He decided that it was too risky to go there. And they stopped. Unfortunately, the airship crashed a few months after that. So probably Coolidge was right. Who knows? But this was another interesting attempt. Again, here we are, Norge, 1926, by Umberto Nobile, another of my cards. And the cards are important because they will appear again and again and again. This is Umberto Nobile, Italian designer, engineer, and professor. Lincoln Ellsworth, a tycoon, and Roald Amundsen, at that time the most famous explorer ever. He wanted to go to the North Pole. He tried first with the seaplane. He bought the seaplane basically 10 miles from my apartment in Italy, strangely. And once there, probably, he saw the airship. And he saw the previous version of this airship was called N1. And he decided to buy it. And he decided to go to the North Pole using a mixed crew of Italians and Norwegians, plus Lincoln Ellsworth. That basically was the financer of the expedition together with the Royal Aero Club of Norway. And as you know, they succeeded. They worked a lot on the semi-rigid structure, maneuverability, top speed, and especially the mooring equipment, something pretty new at that time. And we'll talk about the details later. Again, 1928, right after the first achievement, the three guys, Amundsen, Nobile, and Ellsworth, started fighting. Who was really the first? Who was really the leader? Who was? Roald Amundsen was saying it was me. Nobile was saying, you bought my airship. I piloted the airship. It's like if you say, can you drive me to the opera? I drove him to the opera. And Ellsworth, of course, was in the middle. But in reality, this brought to a very strong fight. And Nobile, in 1928, decided to try again with another airship, Italia. Italia was an improved version of the N1. And in 1928, they succeed in reaching for the second time the North Pole. But something went wrong. Because when they were coming back after reaching the North Pole for the second time, the airship, because of the weather, because of a lot of consequences, basically crashed on the ice. It was a very bad crash. Basically, the engine and then the cabin were destroyed. And 10 people remained on the ground, and 6 disappeared. And still today, we don't know where is the airship. The last expedition that tried to find the airship started 3 years ago. The Russians and Italians in 1969 made a fantastic movie called The Red Tent with a stellar cast. With Roald Amundsen was Sean Connery, Umberto Nobile was Peter Finch, and the music was by Ennio Morricone. This is some, let's say, excerpts from the original video. white spot on the map became crowded of aircraft, people, and researchers. So that was a great achievement. And again, another of my cards. Rudolf Samoilovich, a Russian professor, and Roald Amundsen once again. Why? Because Roald Amundsen tried to save his enemy, brother, and he died during a mission. He disappeared. We don't know if he died, how he died, but his plane, his seaplane, disappeared. Rudolf Samoilovich saved Nobile using another kind of mean of transportation. He rescued Nobile with the icebreaker, Krasin, a beautiful Russian icebreaker that still exists in St. Petersburg. So, let's go ahead. 1931, finally, Rudolf Samoilovich again, and Hugo Eckner. Hugo Eckner is probably the most important people in the history of airships. Manager, pilot, entrepreneur, ambassador of airships. He decided to bring to the Arctic his jewel, the Graf Zeppelin, the most successful airship ever. And they tried. But after the accident of the Italia, the insurance decided to stop them. And they said, we are not going to pay if you go there. And they put a limit, the 82nd parallel. So they reached the Franz Josef Land. They landed there, and they met another Russian icebreaker, the Mulligan. And on the Mulligan, there was another person of my cards, Ivan Papanin. The Graf Zeppelin was great. These are the original pictures of the landing. It was really spacious, was really great, was really powerful, plenty of scientific equipments, laboratory, and was a really jewel of the technology. But finally, the meeting was very short with the icebreaker because Hugo Eckner wanted to leave. It was quite risky to stay there. From the icebreaker, one boat left and tried to reach the airship. And if you have a look at the guys in the boat, there was once again Umberto Nobile. To me, this is really crazy. I mean, imagine that no one was. I mean, for the humanity needed centuries to go to the Arctic, and they were meeting like friends. Oh, what are you doing today? Nothing. I go to the North Pole. And then finally, this is another interesting story because this is what happened, but I want to show you what didn't happen, because in reality it was a bit more complicated. The Graf Zeppelin made in 1929 the world tour, an amazing achievement. 4 stages, the whole world tour, and on board, of course, they were the best sailors and, unfortunately, or luckily, a lot of billionaires, but also people like this gentleman, George Wilkins. Wilkins was a very famous pilot that tried to fly to the North Pole once again. And he met Lincoln Ellsworth. Once again, the same guy. So my cards are perfect. Samoilovich, Eckner, Ellsworth, and Wilkins. Why? Because they wanted to go to make a very crazy story, to reach the North Pole below the ice with a submarine, and above the ice with an airship, and to meet at the North Pole. Unfortunately, the submarine wasn't in a good shape and broke during the navigation. So what happened? This was the ideal meeting. Unfortunately, it didn't work. So what happened? That Lincoln Ellsworth, my card, moved to the other deck and joined Eckner and Samoilovich. And the poor Wilkins remained alone with his submarine that sunk near Norway, and his record was cancelled from the history of exploration. Last but not least, 1934, USSR. They wanted to have a fleet of airship, and they invited a designer, Umberto Nobile, once again. And Umberto Nobile designed this beautiful airship. It was the swan song of his design, and was enough refined and powerful to achieve, to beat the endurance record of the Graf Zeppelin. But once again, there was something wrong in Umberto Nobile. And the airship that was sent to rescue Papanin, we have seen before, hit a mountain in a zero visibility flight in the fog, and half of the crew died in the accident. And this really brought to the end of this beautiful, amazing, and also sad story somehow. In reality, no. During the Cold War, an American Goodyear blimp from Boston, basically, flew to the Arctic for a scientific mission, and was a great success, more than around 5,000 nautical miles. And they made a long, fantastic record, the last one. So now we want to start from there. So, the man, Umberto Nobile. Umberto Nobile is not just a designer. Umberto Nobile designed 10 airships, made 20 projects, 40 patents. He founded the Federico II University in Napoli, the aeronautical department, and he also taught in 5 countries, and sold airships in Italy, USSR, USA, Japan, and Spain. Not exactly the driver that Roald Amundsen told in his story. The ship, again, here we are in the paleontology department of airships, was great. It was a kind of a strange system. Airships can be rigid, with a structure inside, or can be blimp, soft. And then they can have a keel. And this was his main, let's say, his best design. Still today, we have semi-rigid airships. And basically, they work like, they don't have bones like the Zeppelins, but they have a spine because the keel can move. It's flexible. And this helped a lot in the flights. Here you can see compared the interior, the section of a Zeppelin and the section of the Norge. It's very hard to design these things because nothing was left. Nothing. We have in Italy the engine here, and we have probably some components of the cabin. The airship was changed a lot during his life, and Nobile introduced a lot of interesting technologies in it. The engines, the structure, but mainly, apart from the propulsion, what was interesting was the fact that he designed a compromise, let's say, between the Zeppelins and the blimps. And we are still studying these things because they are very, very hard to understand. The shape of the airship was achieved through the pressure. And of course, the pressure changes. Higher you go, higher is the pressure inside. Lower you go, lower is the pressure. So you need to always compensate with air. These balloons are fed by this duct, always. And the airship and the commander doesn't have just to drive the airship, but has also to control constantly the pressure inside. Not very easy. It's a kind of submarine in the sky. And finally, what is interesting is that this airship started basically as a very simple and nice airship for traveling, for tourists, for passengers. The cabin was big, and inside they put, this is the Explorer, they put seats. It was also a bedroom for the king, just to get the money. And this was completely changed in a few months when Amundsen asked for the airship for the North Pole expedition. And this is the last cabin, completely different, designed for exploration. What I love is when the design is around, not around cosmetics, is around the needs, is around the challenges. And finally, the flight. You've already seen the flight at the beginning. It was kind of a really long one. It's interesting to see all the legs, all the steps, from Italy to UK, UK to Norway, Norway to Russia, Russia to north of Norway, Spitsbergen Island, and then finally North Pole and Alaska there. The flight was great. The airship was adopted by and paid by the Norwegian Aero Club, and this expedition said the story. It was the first achievement of the North Pole ever, fully documented, but also plenty of interesting things. They had to challenge the nature. They had to bring and build infrastructure. So they built in the Svalbard Islands, the northern land, and now hangar made out of timber wood. And it was another achievement of the engineering. It was basically a very simple structure designed to be built by non-specialists in one of the most challenging regions in winter, and covered by fabric, without a roof. And this is the drawing I made about how the base of Spitsbergen, Svalbard Island, Ny-Ålesund, looked like. A handful of buildings, the hangar, the airship, ship in the harbor, and this was birds, Fokker. All together, once again, all the cards. The achievement was fantastic for their time, and even in the popular culture for several decades, the myth remained in stamps, in books, and everything. But to me, the real winner of this story is my last card, is Titina. Titina was Umberto Nobile's dog, and Titina was the first to reach the North Pole and the second to reach the North Pole in 1928. And she crashed together with the Italia airship on the pole, stayed for some weeks on the ice, was rescued by a Swedish plane that brought Umberto Nobile to the base, together with Titina. And Titina followed Umberto Nobile in Russia. We still have Titina, not of course her, but her body, preserved in the Air Force History Museum in Italy, and now is in Umberto Nobile Museum. And once again, insurance. In these days, we are in trouble. We don't know how to insure the body of Titina. No one want to try to insure the dog of Umberto Nobile. And a few years ago,
Titina!
in Norway, they made a cartoon.
Buongiorno! My name is Roald Amundsen.
Yes?
I want to fly to the North Pole.
You want me to build an airship?
No.
To fly to the North Pole?
Yes, and you must come along.
I see. What? To the North Pole?
Yes.
So Tina is my hero. Or every time you think about the humans at the North Pole, but no one remembered the first dog and the second dog, because she was the first and the second in a row. Today. So this was the past. Let's go 10 minutes on the future, and then I stop. Some years ago, we started talking about designing new airships. Why? Because of the need we have of sustainability. But every time we talk about sustainability, we talk about fuel. In reality, the biggest impact comes from the infrastructures. When you have to build infrastructure, it's a big problem. You destroy the planet, and it's extremely polluting. So basically, we started thinking about all the technologies. Cars started as electric, and Tesla proved it was possible to make new cars today, electric cars. The windmills are working since the prehistory, and now we're using them for making electricity. So probably we can learn from the past and make something from the future. I mean, this is a mix of real airships, the Dragon's Eye, the Outlander 10 in England. This is the Pathfinder 1 by LTA Research. It's flying in these days in the San Francisco Bay. And this is a French project, an Israeli project. This is Lockheed Martin. So we have enough airships to start thinking what we can do with them. At the beginning, we started thinking that the most interesting thing was to use them for cargo operation. But cargo operation, they are not that sexy for the market. It's so boring. So basically, we thought that they were great, as in the past, as probably cruisers of the sky, cruising ship of the sky, like the Hindenburg. Hindenburg was great with the lounge, with the smoking room, with the bedrooms. And it was an amazing way to fly, completely different from us today, that we are squeezed in a tube. This was a really great way to fly. You can open the windows and you can in-flight, because we fly slow and low. And finally, the way they were advertising these things was amazing. It was kind of as a designer, I would say that the best branding ever. So we put together a team. I co-founded together with Carlos Karlavacek, that guy behind me, in Sweden, a company called Ocean Sky. And the idea was to work with the airship. And once again, we got the same answer. It's completely wrong. Let us work. We are engineers. We are building something serious. Yeah, of course, we are great. But we need to build a market. We need to understand if it's feasible. We need to check the reaction of the possible customers. No. Okay, come back later when you have the money. So we decide to work on our own and to design a dream, going to the North Pole by airship. We started preparing a campaign. We started talking with all possible operators in the world. And thanks to the fact that in the startup is a startup, but altogether we have 400 years of experience, we realized that it was possible to at least to tell the story. renderings, I would say no, because luckily I'm in the field since 30 years. So instead of making it's always possible, AI, please AI, design me a nice airship. In reality, it was a very long process. We started talking with the companies, we started talking with the industry, we started talking with the tourism industry, and finally, we succeeded in having a huge visibility, and we started selling the dream, going to North Pole by airship. Seems crazy, but we decided to make not more than 35 flights to North Pole, and we sold 18 of them. And we stopped because they were asking for the others. We stopped because they were too much. It was too much for us. And we succeeded in becoming a kind of a point of reference in the world, because we're the first to try to imagine the possibility. We talked with Richard Branson of Virgin Galactic. We talked with Sergey Brin, the co-founder of Google. And Sergey Brin is putting now, in these days, 300 millions from his pocket in a new company that is in the San Francisco Bay, or let's say a little bit south, Mountain View, and they're building the first new rigid airship after the Hindenburg. So I've been so happy to work with all these guys and to design the airships of the future. And this is a kind of historical picture I love, because this team is the Zeppelin team. This is the LTA team, and this is my group. And this is the first meeting of a design team for a passenger airship after 1934. So I'm quite proud of that. This is the airship. This is the hangars. Materials are completely different today. We can rely on a great technology. And here I'll show you very quickly some images, because of course we are still under NDA with these things, but just for you to imagine what can be the life on board today. Because we are not space limited, we are just weight limited, but we can have a huge space inside. So now we need not only customers, but we need people that can help us designing these things and imagine the future. I'm getting old, they are young, they are motivated, so we involved a lot of universities all around the world. And this was one of our last lectures in Sweden, talking about the future of airships. And this is the end. So sometimes it happens. And thanks to Michael Connors and the AIAA, all this work was somehow, let's say, awarded with the Lifetime Achievement Award by the AIAA last July in Las Vegas. That's the story. I hope you enjoyed. And it's complicated to tell such a long story. It's 1 century of aviation in a few minutes. But I'm very proud that finally I had the opportunity to talk in one of the most amazing places in the world for talking about exploration.
We have time for a few questions, if anyone has any for Max.
Great presentation, by the way.
Thank you so
Great.
much.
Just a quick question. You were talking about the future and travel to the North Pole and the customer base. So you look at the customer base and you look at the interest. Could you tell me a little bit, in your research, are people looking to travel? Because we see a lot of advertisement of going to boats and treks. What is the customer? Is he an adventurer? Is he somebody who's trying to develop a concept? Or is he someone who wants to travel in luxury? Because I see there that you've actually inquired the 3 pieces together. So when you were looking to develop this, what was it that you wanted to offer ultimately? The experience, the luxury? I mean, I know all this comes together, but for you, what was so important to develop this process?
It's a good question, but we already sold, as I told you, a lot of tickets to North Pole, and some of them were bought by astronauts. So people used it. but also from normal. I mean, normal. You have to have some spare money to buy a ticket. It's 200,000 euros for one cabin. But this wasn't a way to get rich. It wasn't a way for us to show the industry that people are eager to try. And they want to be part of a dream. And this was the proof of concept we wanted to bring to the engineers and to the manufacturers. That, look, guys, we have the customer. They believe in us. So we don't have a specific target. We have a very broad group of people, brave probably, but of course they are motivated. They want to be part of a dream. And thanks to the exhibitions, books, and so on, we somehow trained them to understand the history behind. Because if you think about the Hindenburg boom, no, there is a great story behind. And when they understood, and they tried to get into the real history, they became more and more interested. But there is no one target. It's a very broad.
Quick question, the old question, Bert or Norge, who was first? And I looked into this, and the Norge had probably the most advanced navigation equipment that was available in those days. But it was quite bulky. So Bert could not have taken this in the Fogger. No way. So I assume that Bert was going by that reckoning, while the Norge was going by real navigation. Also, they couldn't do it by beacon because they had only one beacon from New Orleans. They couldn't triangle. So what is your opinion?
Exactly like yours. I mean, the Norge, there were 16 people. They were sailors. They were carrying sextants and whatever. So there's a first fully documented, I mean, scientifically documented. I would say that Byrd was the last of the romantics. He tried, and I love these things and then Byrd proved that it wasn't just for visibility because he explored the South Pole. So to me, both are great. As Italian, I love Umberto Nobile because he's a very understudied, under-considered people. Because it was the fastest period in Italy, and he started fighting against Italo Balbo. There was another great aviator, but like with Roald Amundsen, these personalities were typically fighting at that time. And this brought a lot of shame to Umberto Nobile. So my heart is with Umberto Nobile because he lived till 93 years. When he died, he was 93 years old. And he spent his life trying to defend his work. And this is really sad to me. While Byrd became a hero, even if we don't really know if he reached the North Pole. So it's two different cultures. Italy, losers are not so beloved, let's say. And unfortunately, Nobile is a kind of people that I love because he was a hard worker, was a visionary, but not too much, was doing things instead of just claiming. I love him. But Byrd was great as well.
I saw a mention of hybrid. What does that mean, hybrid of what?
Yep. There are two kinds of hybrids in airships. One is hybrid propulsion. That means you can have, as for the Pathfinder 1, you have electric engines and a diesel generator. So that's hybrid, like a car. The hybrid airship, aerodynamically speaking, is an airship that is slightly heavier than air. Typically, an airship is lighter than air. It's slightly heavier. That means that can land, while airship can't. If you release an airship, it flies away. With a heavy airship, you can land. So how it works? It's a combination of lifting gas and aerodynamical shape. It's basically a flying wing filled with helium. And it's a very bold, let's say, concept. And it's in the world, both Lockheed Martin, hybrid air vehicle, and aeroscraft. They work and aeros in the sorry Nadiverba okay. There are 4 companies in the world that are building hybrid, real hybrid, I mean flying wings with helium. So the combination is, if you have the possibility of flying a heavier than slightly heavier than air airship, you can land like an aircraft in 90 meters. I mean, really in 200 feet in a football field, and this allows you to load and unload the airship without problems. When the Hindenburg was flying, there was a sailor that was releasing the ballast after each passenger. I mean, there was a ballast for each passenger, not exactly simple and easy. The hybrid airship can land. That's a big difference. Nowadays, we have still a lot of normal airships. Okay. Please. Sorry.
Hello. Hi, I'm Henry. I'm a marine survey technician. I deal a lot with ROVs, so kind of those neutrally buoyant vehicles under the water. And could you speak more about like the control schemas of some of these earlier airships? Like you have the props in the back, and some are push, some are pull. Were there any like bow thrusters or any kind of way for the airship to maneuver in tight spaces even back then?
It's changed a lot in time. There were innovations like using aerodynamical surfaces to, like submarines, like aircraft, to get the possibility to control the sinking of the airship, and not just using ballast and buoyancy. And then in time, of course, they started studying the way to vector the thrust. That means changing the angle of the propellers. The Macon, the biggest, probably biggest military airship in the States, was using in 1931, 32, the vector thrust. Then they introduced other methods, because the buoyancy is hard to achieve. Because when you fly high, the pressure increases. When you fly down, fly low, the pressure decreases. And so you have to compensate always, and the compensation changes also the buoyancy. So it's very tricky. Nowadays, we rely on the kind of a fly-by-wire system that can take care of all these things mixing together. The last airships, compared with the previous ones, they have a lot of engines. The Norge was flying with 3 engines. The Pathfinder 1 in California is flying with 12 engines. And all engine can be reversed, can be tilted. So now the control is is a completely different story. And the pilot, the workload of the pilot is less and less strong. At that time, the airship needed 10, 15, 20, 25 sailors on board to control everything. Nowadays, Zeppelin NT or the Goodyear Wingfoot, they use 2 pilots. So that's luckily the technology has improved a lot. However, there's plenty of studies. Again, I was in a meeting a few days ago with a startup, and they're using the stratospheric balloons. I mean, balloons. The airships that go in the stratosphere, they can use as satellites, basically, low altitude, like Sky or like the Finnish Kellu, and they're studying the way to squeeze the airship in flight in order to transform the airship at the end of the mission in something heavier than air, so you can fly, you can glide as a glider to the ground, and so you can recover very quickly the airship, you can refill the airship. So it's an interesting, it's an amazing field. And I'm just sorry because of course, bigger are, better are. It's a really mathematic. A big airship works much better than a small one. The Norge at the beginning was too small for the engineers. They were all worried about the airship, but because of this completely different structure, it worked quite well. But nowadays, we think that bigger is better because you can have a serious payload. You can transport things. The big airship that is flying in these days in the San Francisco Bay is 125 meters. That means it's basically 4,500 feet. No, 400, not 450 feet. Kind of a big one, bigger than the Norge, and has only 10 tons of payload. His brother, that will be 200 meters, so it's 1.5 longer, can have 50 tons of payload. So the capacity of the airship increases proportionally to the exponentially to the volume. That's why we need a big airship, not small ones.
Are there helium's getting depleted and then it just goes up into space? What are the current estimates of how long helium is going to last at the current usage rates, if that exists?
Can you repeat this?
Helium,
Helium.
so not replenishable, right?
It's a good question. And I don't have the answer, but I can tell you that there are studies that are thinking to use the hydrogen again, because the hydrogen can be used both for lifting and for the propulsion, because it can be used as a fuel. But after the Hindenburg, it's impossible to certify an airship with hydrogen. So the studies now are thinking a double envelope, where inside you have the hydrogen and outside you have a kind of a chamber of helium. So you can insulate hydrogen. However, it's a long path, because the biggest problem in aviation, I tried to translate, but in Italy we say that if God wanted us to fly, He would give us more money. Because really, it's really complicated to make the things. And in aviation, the certification kills you. It's normal, because we want safety. But without trying, it's impossible to prove that your concepts are right. At that time, certifications were quite, let's say, less demanding. That's why they achieved what they achieved. But they also, most of them, they crashed or they had problems. Nowadays, it would have been impossible to fly as they did in the past. And that's why we took a plane 2 days ago, and we left in the plane. We landed in New York, and then now we go home, and then because the safety now is the first and the last of our problems.
All right, let me come up again, and thank you, Max. I think it was really a fascinating presentation.
Thank you so much.
And what I really appreciated, I think you had the history, but then you're looking forward as well. And that has things that have been happening in this place. When you look at space, started off 50 years ago, we had here Apollo astronauts, we had others. And now, actually, here, Richard Garriott and others kind of help create space tourism. When you look at, we're talking about the Marianas Trench. You have Victor Vescovo, he's a very active member. At one point, he had done the 7 summits, and he decided, what am I going to do? I'm going to go to the 5 deepest points in the ocean. He got it, he's working forward, and I think you're doing basically the same. Okay, it's 100 years theoretically, or when you look at maybe 34, but I think it's really interesting how to take these ideas, what the early explorers had done, and see how can we bring it to other people, how can we make it commercial. It's great having you here. And then, let's go down to the bar. Like we said, we have models there. We have other people in the club who are working in this space as well. So again,
thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.